push through and punch through, push a vision with passion, a vision with passion.
Hey everybody, hi. Welcome back to Purpose by Design podcast. I'm so glad that you're here. We have a very special podcast today. We actually have a two-parter. Yeah, that's amazing, isn't it? So today you get to hear part 2 of Miss Minnesota International's incredible interview. It was so rich and so full of her experience and her expertise. I had to divide it into 2. So I know today is going to be a blessing for you. So go grab your cup of coffee or tea and get ready to just soak in all that Miss Minnesota International has to share with you today. Would you welcome with me Demi Radeva?
So to be able to give back to this community that gave me so much was a huge reward. Little did I know that just a few short months later, we would lose everything again. It was a really cold morning. It was September in Minnesota. It was really absolutely frigid. And I remember it was kind of like maybe around 9 a.m. on a weekend. And my mom had just decided to color her hair. So she came in my room and was like, can you wake up so you can help watch your brother and I can go, shower so I can take the color off. So I get up and I go over to him. He's watching cartoons and there was just something off that morning. I just remember hearing footsteps outside. Usually it's very, very quiet. And so something just kind of made me to get up, and I look through the peephole. I'm not seeing anything. And then I open the door and a huge pile of smoke just hits my face.
Oh my gosh.
And I remember just a black figure standing there and being like, get out now. You need to run outside. But no one came in. No one, came in to help or anything like that. So I went to my room. I didn't even have pants on. So I really just put some jeans on, the t-shirts that I had slept in, and grabbed my brother, and I went to try and get my mom. So I'm knocking, and she's not answering. And I'm literally screaming. I'm like, Mom, you need to get out right now. There's a fire. And I, for a second there, I didn't know what to do. I just felt like, this is my mom, I have to save her somehow. But I felt like I had to go.
Yeah.
So I grabbed my brother and immediately just exited the building. And the moment I exited the building, I look up and I see right above our apartment, huge flame just burning everywhere.
Above your apartment?
Above my apartment where we were living. And I know my mom is in there, and I can see those flames burning through that roof. And I literally thought we lost her. I just thought she's gone. So then when a few moments later, I just look and she's just running out of the apartment, completely covered in soap, completely wet. She was just soaking with the towel on, and I think she had just grabbed her purse or something. Just runs out. That was such a moment of relief, but also heartbreak, because I just knew that nothing was going to be the same. So, the three of us, my mom, my brother, and I, my dad was at work at the time. He was working 12-hour shifts. So he had left really, really early to go to work. And I just remember standing on the sidewalk with her and, her just being like, we're done. Like everything, all our documents, all our, clothes, everything was just gone.
Yeah,
and the firemen in that moment, they were just standing there. And I couldn't understand. I kept looking at people around me being like, why aren't they putting water in there. I mean, later we found out that they needed to let the roof burn in order to get water in and to put out the fire.
Okay.
But in that moment, just watching everyone sit there and not do anything was so heartbreaking. And so, we thought and we're recent immigrants too, all of the documents, everything was in there, and no one picked up any phones, wallets, nothing. So no IDs. How would we even identify who we are? We had no identity, is what we were thinking. Until, later we were able to recover some of that. Fortunately, we were able to recover some of that, because without these documents, it's like you're no one.
Right.
So we, thankfully we survived it. And I just remember the community being so amazing. I remember in that moment, my guidance counselor, because we lived right across the high school. So my guidance counselor had seen the flames. Actually, at the time I was tutoring calculus, and the student that I was tutoring, she was playing a tennis tournament, and the tennis courts were right across from the apartment building as well. And she told me, like, she was playing tennis and she's just seeing flames in my apartment where she would come and study with me. And she just dropped everything, was like, I'm done. I don't care about losing this tournament. My friend's in there. I need to go. And so, all of a sudden I had a friend come and bring me flip-flops. One of my teachers gave me a jacket in that moment, because I was barefoot sitting on, the frozen sidewalk. And it was just such an incredible experience to go through. But the community, those churches that we lived right next to too, they did food drives, clothes drives in the following months. And we unfortunately didn't have any kind of relatives to actually go stay with. So the Red Cross was able to give us temporary housing. And all of these community supports, I mean, without them, I don't know that we would have ever been able to make it to where we are today. I am where I am, and I am talking to all of you today because of my community.
Yes, absolutely you are. And you're not the only one crying, okay? I've been wiping my eyes too. Just so you know. And I'm sure there's many listening that are emotional about this. You are, there's that old saying about being a product of your environment. At least that's an American thing. I don't know if you've heard that growing up before you came to America, but usually somebody says you're a product of your environment, it's a negative thing, But here you are literally a product of your environment. Literally. And this is a positive product that you are. And one other thing that came to me when you were sharing all of this was in the scriptures where it talks about, being a cheerful giver and reaping and sowing. And when you give, it comes back to you. And you have demonstrated this in what you've told us of how you positioned yourself in life to volunteer. That's giving. That, serving, giving, and how you really, I believe, were sowing all these seeds into not just your future, but your family's future throughout all of that, because here you were in a time of need, and, it all came right back to you, what you and your family needed. And then you're going to continue telling us, because you didn't say, okay, well, I got what I needed. I'm a product of my environment. You were like, okay, now I am pumped about this. I have to give more, right? Because that's what you've done. So anyways, I wanted to just throw that in there. Please continue with your story.
I appreciate it. I appreciate that so much. I think everybody goes through adversity in life. We all have a story. And when I work with students, high school students, I create these little kits. So whoever's on camera and watching this, they can see a little kit here. I won't go into too much. It's a planting kit. There's a bunch of fun stuff in there. But one of the things that I include in every kit is a little crown. And what this crown symbolizes is, for every student has a story. And everyone with a story, this crown, this is what it gives me the power to do, is to share my story. And so I asked them, what is a story that, would encourage someone else that you can share with them? What is a story that you believe can change someone's life in a positive way? And that is what I encourage them to do. But that's what this crown means to me. It's just giving me the opportunity to share my story at an even greater scale. I mean, a lot of my friends know this experience. A lot of my friends experience this right next to me. And so they know, what I stand for, what I've gone through. But now I'm talking to you, and all of these listeners are going to hear this story and hopefully be able to, learn something from it, share with someone else, and probably hopefully get a little piece of inspiration from it as well to share and to give something back.
Yes.
So that's just a big pause here because this was a lot. It was a big experience for me and my family. And I was just, after that moment, I realized the power of just the community coming together and helping you. If we didn't have that community, we would not be in the same place. And I, again and again and again, I had situations in my life where it was all about, the community coming together and helping me make it through whatever that difficult moment would have been. So, after fast forward, I, at the time, this happened right before my senior year, actually. And I remember I didn't even know if I was going to graduate, let alone make it to university or study what I had always dreamed to study. Back home in Bulgaria, I had studied English because I wanted to be a diplomat one day. I wanted to work internationally.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason why I knew some English before we moved to the States. The entrance exams are very tough and you need to know at least 2 languages. So I had tried to start early. And, I didn't know in that moment, there's all these things happening. We had just lost our home. We didn't even know what planet we were on at that point in time. So I just was hoping, to just graduate. I didn't know. I was a first generation university student in America. I mean, both my parents had gone to university back home in Bulgaria, but no one was familiar with the system here. I didn't really have, someone to show me. I was very grateful for all the counselors that were in the school that could help with the application process. But I remember applying to 10 plus schools and everyone thought that was crazy. But I wasn't sure, would I even get into any of the schools that I applied to? What is the process? How do I narrow it down? And now, just, a year ago, I actually started teaching at the university. So it's amazing to go from a place where I didn't even know if I was going to graduate high school to now I'm actually teaching graduate level students at the university.
You teach graduate level students.
Yes.
That is amazing. Wow.
Thank you.
Beautiful and brains.
I'm very passionate about health system change, and I have spent most of my career in the healthcare industry and specifically focused on reimbursement, so health insurance, health benefits. And I think when I think about making change at scale, where is the most powerful place that you can be to influence and create that change to happen? And so for me, that immediately directed me here to United Healthcare, which is one of the largest healthcare companies in the world. So the ability to make change happen at scale is absolutely available, and all the resources that are made available to us as employees there, it's amazing. And so I actually right now in my role focus very much on our most vulnerable population, so the Medicaid population. And I'm working on our health equity and disparity strategy and trying to formulate that for the business. So I feel very grateful to be able to use my position of privilege and power to be able to change the system for better for those who cannot do that for themselves.
Yes,
Yeah.
you're using your power for good.
Thank you.
That is really awesome.
Yeah, so that is my current kind of position. And prior to that, so right around the time when I got involved with pageantry, I was director of enterprise strategy, and I owned the enterprise strategy and nutrition. So that is where I learned a lot about nutrition and the fact that it is one of the most powerful things we can change about ourselves that can completely change our life for the better. In the data that I get to see every day as someone in the public health space and looking at claims data and information, I can tell you unquestionably that diet is one of the biggest risk factors to disease later on in life. And so that is, such a powerful place to focus on, just because it can mean life or death. It can mean really early life, death, and it can mean a lot of very expensive treatments and just suffering for people that is unnecessary. And so that was one key reason to why I wanted to focus on childhood nutrition in my platform.
Yeah, and we've been so caught up in everything we've been talking about. I haven't even asked you to tell us about your platform. I think we understand a good bit of it, but is there anything that you want to highlight for us about your platform?
Absolutely. So like I said, my platform is called Food for Thought. Little play on words here. And I'm really focused on empowering the future generation through better nutrition. And I can't do all of that by myself. I need every single one of you, all of your help collectively. I can't protect our health system from going bust because the demographics, the amount of chronic disease that we are seeing, it's really overwhelming. And so just trying to think about how can we finance this? It's really unsustainable, the point that we have reached. And it's not just the fact that it's financially unsustainable, but also people having to, kids today are getting conditions and diseases that didn't exist, and parents, their parents never had to deal with, that are chronic, that are debilitating, that are really, really just painful. And so, my vision is to live in a world where we're free of chronic disease that's caused by diet-related causes. And my mission is to provide access to free, delicious, fresh, nutritious foods to all school-age children, because healthy habits are easy to learn early in life, but they're really hard. Once we have the habits set in place, they're really hard to change later in life. And if we can focus on creating a healthy body during that childhood, that can have huge benefits over a lifetime. And if one is unhealthy and unwell, when we fall ill, that is all we can focus on. That is all we can think about. All we need to do is, focus on getting better, and that takes all of our energy, all of our effort, and leaves us drained with completely no energy to work toward any goals, to be able to give back to anyone, to be able to spend time with our families or on our hobbies or interests, right? So our health and wellness are so essential to our success in life. And just like nutrition is essential to our health and wellness. So it's A, B, and BC,
Yeah.
very much connected. And having spent years working in the health system, domestically and abroad, I can tell you that, diet is the #1 risk factor for disease globally. There's a global burden of disease report that gets published every few years. And an unhealthy diet contributes to things like cardiovascular disease, cancer, type 2 diabetes, which are associated with millions of deaths every single year. So not only is our life, cut short, and we become so focused on just managing our condition that we cannot really work toward fulfilling our purpose and really, giving back and those things. But not only are people dying, according to the American Medical Association, chronic illness has doubled in children in the U.S.
Wow.
They're sicker today than their parents' generation.
Hmm.
And so when you think about, sustainability and our friends and neighbors, so financial sustainability, but also our friends and neighbors and their wellness, it's really it's literally a pandemic.
Sure.
It's that scale of an issue that we're dealing with here. And this is an important issue for everyone because of the impact diet has in our bodies, but also in our minds. Not only does it have physiological, but also psychological effects. It impacts our longevity, so instead of living until you're 70, 89 years old, we're much more likely to have a heart attack or some of these conditions and unfortunately pass away. The financial burden is the kind of second piece as to why we should think about this. Is having cancer, having some of these chronic conditions can be very costly. I mean,
Yeah.
diabetics have to pay huge amounts of money for insulin. And so in order to manage their condition, and it's just it's not sustainable for each individual person to be paying that amount of money for insulin, but it's critical for their livelihood. So people turn to things like rationing their insulin, and that can be very damaging and have long-lasting effects for their health. So, those are a couple of key things to really think about. And I think, this is why we need to step up and take ownership of our own health. This is what happened to my mom. A few years ago, we were actually back home vacationing in Bulgaria. We were on the beach, enjoying everything. And I just remember my dad and I, for some reason, looked at mom, and her feet were so swelled up. I mean, we had never seen anything like it. And she had told us earlier in the day she wasn't feeling very well, very, very hot. And next thing I remember is we're in the emergency room, and all of a sudden she's being told she has a heart condition. And when we asked the doctor, what's going on? Is she going to make it? She was fine. But he said, there's no cure for this. This is a lifestyle condition. You have to change your lifestyle if you want to live. Otherwise, come around tomorrow, next day, you can have another emergency and the results will be different. You will no longer be here.
Yeah.
So my mom had to take, ownership of her health, and she was prescribed all kinds of different medications to control and manage her symptoms and condition, and she had horrible side effects to them. So after trying 3-4 different prescriptions, she had to face the reality. What if I just change what I eat?
Sure.
And it was amazing. Within 6 months of, focusing on definitely eating a lot more kind of fruits and vegetables and paring back on some sort of kind of breads and cakes and lots of candy. My grandma, my mom's mom, used to be a baker. So my mom was very much has a sweet tooth. She was used to that kind of food. But, being able to kind of mitigate that and manage it and have a piece of chocolate here and there, but not a daily practice. So changing some of those habits and practices made a huge difference for her, and she went into remission. So all of her symptoms went away.
Wow.
And it was just changing the diet. It was not simple. It was not easy.
Right.
It's a hard thing to do, but I am so glad that mom made that change, and she's still here with us. As difficult as it has been, but so the first thing is we have to put our own mask on. The second thing is we have to put the mask on those who can't help themselves, right?
Right.
And so today there's systematic and institutional barriers that exist that unfortunately, you know, in our current reality, they prevent us from having that better future. So when I think to childhood nutrition, something like, you know, free lunch and having schools have salad bars, schools allowing for kids to take fruit with them without having to pay for it, things like that, subsidizing, you know, healthy foods could be a really, really powerful way to influence and build those healthy habits early on, especially in schools where we have a ton of peer pressure and everyone is sort of watching what everybody's eating. And we have all kinds of marketing happening here in the US, specifically targeted at children and the foods that they eat. So, you know, it's a very important thing for us to be able to put the mask on for others to help break down some of these systemic barriers that exist, and to empower, you know, the younger generation to be able to learn what food comes from, to empower them to grow their own food too if they want to empower them to just nourish their bodies, because your body is your forever home. It's your temple, and like I said, there's nothing else you can focus on if there's something wrong going on and you feel unwell. And lastly, I would say creating alliances. That's why I partner with the Lifetime Foundation and with the American Heart Association, because I believe they really are two powerful organizations that we align in our vision, we align in our mission, we're really working toward those same goals. And, you know, creating alliances between people, institutions, communities, just reaching out, sharing your story, I think that can be really powerful. So I think one of the things you had asked me is to share something actionable. How can the listeners make change happen? Yeah. One, make change happen for you first. Feel better, eat healthier. Two would be help someone else change their life. If they've reached out, they've asked for you to share any tips and guidance on what you've done and how you've made change happen in your life, share that with them. And three, I would say, you know, donate, volunteer, advocate, share your story. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate too. Just something as simple as having a conversation can be very, very powerful to get others excited and thinking about how they can make positive change happen in their life. You could also follow me on social media. I share a lot of helpful tips and stories. So, you know, that's another way that you can take action if that is what you like.
How can people follow you? Where would they find you?
So, yeah, I am on most active, I would say, on Instagram. I'm a very visual person. And so on Instagram, you can find me at Miss Minnesota International. It's Miss MNINTL. I think you have the link, so hopefully you can share those.
That will all be in the description.
Perfect. And then the same on Facebook. So it's facebook.com and then / Miss MN International, so INTL. That's where you can find all the content that I share with everyone. And I also have a website, missdemi.org. I have a contact form on there. So if you ever want to do anything fun, like a planting kit with a local school, if you want to book a speaking engagement with me, I'm happy to come talk to you, or your, you know, community group or your business. And so feel free to reach out on there as well.
That is beautiful. I love the little crowns in those little planting kits. Yeah. That is beautiful. I just love that. Well, Demi, this has been so inspiring. And again, you're like a little celebrity. You know what I mean? Like you have the crown, you have the
thank you.
The title. You are. And to hear the story of how you became, I mean, you have earned it, girl. You have earned it, and you're paying it forward in so many different ways. Before we close, is there anything else that you wanted to share or say that you didn't get to?
Trust the process, trust God.
Yes, which you have done. And that obviously doesn't mean that everything is easy, right? It just means
absolutely not.
But in that process, when it seems like it's just chaos, there is that's always
Mhm.
constant, right? Yes, what were you going to say?
There was one thought that came to mind actually right as I was kind of about to get on here. It was, I feel like that when someone says that they're a believer, people think, oh, everything must be, so easy and rosy for them, and have that kind of, being a believer. No, you're still going through all of the adversity, through all of these, through all of this pain, and still experiencing and feeling it in the same way. But I feel like, being a believer, just you're hopeful. You're filled with hope, and you're trusting, and you know that there is a greater power that is helping you make sense of all of this along the way and actually turn all the negatives into positive.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you have a hope that others that don't yet know what we know, that and it's not anything that we know here, right? It's something that we have experienced here. I will say often, yeah, I know that God is real because I just talked to him this morning. Because I did. That's real to me. And when we have that type of authenticity in a supernatural relationship with God, then no matter what is coming, there is literally a power greater than me that will help me and pull me through that, right? So just like you said, it doesn't mean that we don't go through anything. It just means that there are times when we can just say, I can't do this, but I can do this, but I need your strength. I need your help. And you've been there. I mean, I can't imagine standing out, coming, I'm looking at it as your mom, like coming out as a mom in a towel, and everything going up in smoke, literally, or as a teenage gal, young woman, standing there holding your baby brother, wondering, where is my mom? And then having those awful feelings of what's going to happen now. And yet, no matter what happens, we can trust the process because God is good, right? And look at what he's done in you. My gosh. This has been so great. Thank you so much, Demi, for being
Thank you for having me.
so beautiful with your crown and your sash. And yes, this has been just awesome. And thank you for being real. Thank you for being transparent. Thank you for being vulnerable today and not just putting on a happy face. And yeah, you brought it. And I know that everybody has appreciated that. And I know they will be following you because you're the real deal, girl.
It's, it's a struggle sometimes. How vulnerable should one get? But it is what I've lived through. It is from my eyes, from my experience.
Yes.
And no one can take that away from me. It's what I felt. And it's just what it is. So I can't change it. And I don't want to change it because it has led me to where I am today, and to talking to you and meeting you. And I'm so grateful for that.
Yes, we have so much to be grateful for. And I'm so grateful to have met you and to be able to share you with my awesome community. And we'll stay in touch. We'll have to have you come back in a few months here and tell us how things are going and how your rain is raining and all of that fun stuff. Would you come back sometime and share with us what's going on?
Absolutely. I would love to. We have nationals coming up in July.
Okay.
I'm very excited.
Yes.
It's going to be happening in Tennessee, and I get to go there and meet some wonderful, amazing women that are making change happen in their communities.
Yes.
And I would be happy to come back. Absolutely.
That would be great. You are a world changer, that's for sure. Well, thank you to all of the listeners that are here with us today. We appreciate you. And I know that this this story with a message has been a blessing to you. Please follow in the description, look in the description and get all the information so you can follow this woman and get on the bandwagon with her, and let's make a difference in our communities. Demi's an example of what that means to be a product of your environment. So let's make a difference in our communities. As always, thank you for coming to the podcast. You have a purpose by design, And remember, you are the salt and the light in the world. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Demi, for being here.
Thank you.